Kia ora. My name is Esther Woodbury. My sign name is my right arm using an elbow crutch. I work for the Health and Disability Commissioner, or HDC. HDC has recently finished its review of the Code of Rights and the HDC Act. The Code of Rights tells people what our rights are when we use health and disability services and supports. People can complain to us if they feel their rights haven't been respected. The HDC Act gives us powers to make decisions about complaints and speak up when things have gone wrong. We asked the public how they thought the Act and the Code of Rights are working and used that feedback to figure out what could be improved. We sent our recommendations to the Minister of Health on the 20th of December last year, and our report is now public. Overall, we found the Act and Code are generally working well, and that most of the issues people raised could be addressed by making improvements to how we do things at HDC, rather than by changing the Act and the Code. We have recommended small changes to both the Act and the Code to align them with modern expectations, help shift practice in the health and disability sector, and improve the way HDC works. Many of our recommendations focus on relationships. Relationships between consumers and health and disability service providers, between providers and the wider system, and between HDC and the communities we serve. It is now up to the Minister of Health and the government to decide whether to progress the changes HDC has recommended. We want to take this opportunity to provide a bit more detail about the review, including who we heard from, what we heard, and what we recommended to the Minister of Health. We want to start by saying a huge thank you to everyone who participated. People were very generous with their time and insights. As well as helping to shape our recommendations to the Minister, we are using this feedback to improve the way we do things at HDC. Who did we hear from? HDC wanted to make sure we were hearing from a wide range of people and that anyone who wanted to had a chance to have a say in the review. People were so generous in engaging with us that we broke HDC records for the number of submissions received in our review, with 259. For the first time, HDC received 3 submissions in Te Reo Māori. Around 60% of the submissions were from individuals. Of those, almost 25% were Māori and just over 25% were disabled people. 33% of the people who submitted told us they mainly engaged with disability support services. 25% told us they mainly engaged with mental health services. There was a huge variety in the groups who sent in submissions, including consumer groups, service providers, regulatory bodies, Māori iwi organisations and community organisations, as well as government entities. We also ran 61 engagements online and in person around the motu, including groups from deaf and disabled communities, 28%, Māori, 17%, groups of people with mental health and addiction lived experience, 11%. What did people tell us? HDC and the Code still have an important role to play in the health and disability system. People see them as important tools for ensuring person-centred care, quality improvement, and making providers accountable for upholding people's rights. However, we were told that HDC needs to have more of a focus on disability and be clear about what it can and can't help people with. People want HDC to hold health and disability service providers to account, but there are different ways to do this. People wanted ways to resolve complaints that are healing and culturally appropriate, including being tikanga-led. We heard complaints processes need to work for people, that complaints should be resolved as quickly as possible, that people want more of a say in the complaints process. We heard there are lots of barriers to people speaking up and making complaints, including concerns they will be treated unfairly if they complain, and a lack of trust that things would improve. We also heard that complaints processes can be confusing and inaccessible. Some people need more support to make complaints. While people valued the nationwide health and disability advocacy service, we were told advocates were harder to get hold of these days, and specialist advocates were needed, including advocates who understand disability and disability services. We heard that respecting Te Tiriti o Waitangi, the Treaty of Waitangi, in the Act and the Code will benefit everyone. People talked about the need to protect people's rights as individuals and also recognise the interdependence of people and the role that family, whānau and others play in supporting people to uphold their rights when receiving care and support. We heard that accessibility is still a huge issue, including the accessibility of HDC and of health and disability services. In particular, we heard the deaf community often face barriers to communicating about health and disability services and about their rights. We also heard accessibility needs to be designed into digital tools. So after we heard from the community, what did HDC recommend to the Minister of Health? HDC recommended small changes to both the Act and the Code of Rights. HDC's recommendations about the Code of Rights focused on improving the way things are done in the health and disability system. We heard there is some good practice, but it needs to be more consistent. We focused on ensuring the code responds to people's different needs and supporting issues to be addressed early. Some examples of what HDC recommended include strengthening people's rights to support to make decisions and to make complaints, changing language in the code to support accessibility and inclusion, adding the right for people to have tikanga followed when it is relevant for a person, and making it clear that people should not be treated badly because they've made a complaint. HDC also recommended making changes to the Act to improve the way we can work as an organisation. Some examples of what HDC recommended include making sure HDC has the right people in leadership to work well for all communities, including disability communities. Making sure HDC can report directly to the right ministers, including ministers for disability issues and mental health. Changing the Act's principles for complaint resolution from fair, simple, speedy and efficient to fair, accessible, responsive and efficient. Giving HDC more options to resolve complaints in ways that work for everyone. As you might know, there are some other reviews of legislation happening at the moment. HDC recommended that changes to our Act and Code are made at the same time as changes to other legislation, including the Mental Health Act and the Law Commission's review into adult decision-making capacity law. HDC's report also highlighted gaps in the health and disability system. We recommended a disability services quality framework should be developed. We recommended more guidance and education around supported decision making, what being treated with respect means, and good complaint resolution. So what are the next steps? The Minister will make decisions about any changes to the Act and Code, but we are already making improvements to how we work. We have strengthened our focus on disability issues, including by developing our own disability strategy. We're working on resolving complaints as quickly as we can and improving the way we communicate with people. We are also sharing what we learned from the review with others in the sector to support improvements to the health and disability system. So once again, we want to say a huge thank you to everyone who took the time to share their wisdom and experience with us. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at review@hdc.org.nz. Thank you.